In this video, we will see how we can turn on labels and apply a label class for a web map layer in ArcGIS Online using the ArcGIS API for Python. Open up the layer label.py script from the layer settings folder. We are again going to use the update layer method from the map content object that we get from accessing the content property from our map object. And here we're going to show labels and add a label class for a layer in our web map. We first access ArcGIS Online, we then use the content manager get method and supply in our web map item ID, which I'll paste in out of my notepad. The get method will return an item object that was assigned to a variable called webmap item. We'll then use that item object to create a map object which was assigned to a variable called webmap. We have our two functions. The first to get layer index by name. Here we can supply in our webmap item and the layer name of choice, and it will return the index for that layer in the web map. If that layer is not found, none is returned. We also have get layer definition, where we can use the webmap item and the layer name, and the layer definition dictionary is returned unless that layer is not found. The labelingInfo property sits in the layer definition drawingInfo property, which we're going to see in a moment. We call our get layer index by name function and we supply in our webmap item and our county boundaries layer to get our layer index. We then call the get layer definition and supply in our county boundaries layer and our webmap item to get the layer definition as a dictionary. Here we are describing a labelInfo property value, which is a list of dictionaries. Each dictionary is a label class. So here we are labeling by the county name. It is going to be grey with a halo. We need to set the labelingInfo property in our layer definition dictionary. So we call our layer definition dictionary and we're accessing the drawingInfo, and that drawingInfo property contains our labelingInfo. We're going to set that to equal the list of dictionaries above. There's only one dictionary in there, which is our labelInfo. We now create our options dictionary, and we're going to set the show labels property to be true. And then, as we've done in previous videos, we need to set our layer definition to equal the updated layer definition variable. We then call the map object content property and the update layer method, where we supply the index as our layer index and the options as our options dictionary. And to commit the change, we call the map object update method. Before running, I'll head over to ArcGIS Online. Here we have our current web map. See here I have county boundaries highlighted, and if we check the labels, we can see that enable labels is turned off. If I turned on, we can see that we could add a label class. We'll head back over to our script and run. Our script is complete. Let's head back over to ArcGIS Online and check out the result. We can see our enable labels is turned off. I'm going to refresh the map. County boundaries layer selected. I'm going to the properties. Nope, I'm actually going to labels. And we can see enable labels is now enabled and we have a label class there. Now if I zoom out until our county boundaries layer is in the scale range, you can see here's a label here. And here's one for Clare. And to make them a bit more clear, I will go into base maps and I'll turn off the light grey reference. So now you can see the label for Galway there, for Clare, Offaly, Westmeath, Longford, and so on. Let's head back over to PyScripter. Comment out our first example and open up the second example where we're going to just turn off the labels. So we're going to disable labeling. So we get our layer index by name where we supply in our webmap item and our county boundaries layer as the layer name to get the index for where that layer sits. We create our options dictionary where show labels is false. We then use the map object content property update layer method where we supply in our layer index and our options dictionary, and then we call the update method on our map object to commit the change. let's run this script. The script is complete. We'll head back over to ArcGIS Online. Take note that our enable labels was enabled. I'm going to refresh. The county boundaries layer selected. I'm going to choose labels on the right hand side, and we can see that enable labels is now turned off. It has been disabled. If I click here to turn it back on, we can see that the label class still exists. We'll head back over to PyScripter where we're going to remove this label class. I'll comment out our second example, and for our third and final example we're going to clear the label classes. So we get our layer index, we then get the layer definition dictionary for our county boundaries layer. We're going to set the labeling info to an empty list. So we call our layer definition dictionary, we're accessing the drawing info, and then the labeling info, we're going to set that to equal an empty list. We're then going to create our options dictionary. We set show labels to false, and our layer definition to our updated layer definition dictionary. We then call our map object, content property, update layer method, where we supply in our layer index and our options dictionary. To commit that change, we call the map object update method. So let's run this script. Our script is complete. Let's head over to ArcGIS Online and check out the result. You can see here with enable labels turned on that we have this label class. We're going to refresh the map. And with county boundary selected, and we'll click on labels on the right hand side, we can see enable labels is turned off. If I turn back on, we do not have any label classes. So we've successfully removed any label class from our county boundaries layer and disabled labeling. In this video, we saw how we could enable and disable labeling for a layer in our web map, and how we could add a label class to display labels for that layer.